Okay, we are back and we are continuing with solving equations. The only thing that's going to be a little bit different is now we are going to do two-step equations, which means in order to get to our answer, we're going to have to do two things. And what's really important is we're actually doing our order of operations backward, still with the goal of isolating the variable. Okay, so my first example here. My variable is the x, and I'm doing two things to the x in my equation. I'm multiplying it by 5, and then I'm subtracting 10 from it. And in order to undo both of those things, the multiplication and the subtraction, I am going to first look at the addition and subtraction part, okay, because I'm going backwards. So instead of subtracting 10, I want to, as my first step, add 10 to both sides. Now, when I add 10, I am left with 5x on the left, and on the right side, I now have 30. And now, it looks like the equations we were doing in the last video where I just have one step left, and right now I have 5 times x. So I want to undo multiplying, which means I am going to divide on both sides by 5. I'm going to divide by the coefficient so that I can get x by itself, which means I will have x equals, and 30 divided by 5 is 6. So I am going to check my answer to see if a 6 works in my equation. So I've got 5 times 6 minus 10 equals, and 5 times 6 is 30, minus 10, and that gets me 20, just how I wanted it. So our first step here should have been to add 2 to both sides, which would leave us with 3x equals 8. And I have 3 times x, which means I want to divide by the coefficient. Now, if you got here and you were like, I don't think I'm doing it right because I got a weird answer, do not be afraid of those fractions. 8/3 is a great answer. And if you went a step further and said, okay, I know 3 goes into 8 2 times with a remainder of 2, and you wrote your answer as a mixed number, awesome. Both of these are good answers. Okay, both fractions are simplified, and I am okay with an improper fraction as your final answer. Do not be afraid of fractions. We love them. All numbers are beautiful. Here is our next example. So I tried to combine everything we've done, and we've got fractions, we've got integers, we've got 2 steps in this equation, and I just crossed my z so you know it's a z and not another 2. But I have 1/2 times z plus 4 equals 10. So to the z, I'm multiplying by 1/2 and adding 4. The first thing I want to do is undo that adding 4 by subtracting it. And remember, whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. So on the left, that leaves me with 1/2 times z equals 10 minus 4 is 6. And my last step is going to be undoing this 1/2. Now, to undo multiplying, we usually divide, but when we have a fraction, dividing really turns into multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 2/1 on both sides. So on the right, and just so we know, what we really have is 2 times 1, which is 2, 1 times 2, which is 2, all times z equals, and I'm going to put my 6 over a 1. Remember, go straight across as you multiply. So 6 times 2 will get us 12, and 1 times 1 will get us 1. And now I'm going to simplify everything. On the left, I have 2 divided by 2, which is just 1. So I can just write it as z. If you want to put the 1 out front of the z, that's also fine, but you don't need it there. And on the right, 12 divided by 1 is 12. So I'm going to go back and check. I have 1/2 times 12 plus 4, and 1/2 of 12 is 6. So I've got my 6 plus 4. That gets me my answer of 10. I am good to go. So our last one is 1/3 times x plus 9 equals 21. So on the left side with my x, I've got 1/3 times x plus 9. So I have to undo multiplying by 1/3 and adding 9. First thing, subtract 9. Leaves me with 1/3 times x equals, and 21 minus 9 leaves me with 12. And my last step, multiply by that reciprocal, which is 3 over 1. So on the left, we've got x equals, and I'm going to put my 12 over 1 just so I can see my numerator and denominator. 12 times 3 is 36. 1 times 1 is 1. So instead of writing it like a fraction, I'm just going to write it as a whole number of x equals 36. I want to go back and check my answer. So 1/3 times 36 plus 9. So this 1/3 times 36, I'm going to rewrite it a little bit just so I can see. I got a 1 here, really. So this is like 1 times 36, which is 36. 3 times 1 is 3. And 36 divided by 3 is 12. Plus 9 gets me back to 21. Now, what should you do if, when you go into your check, you do not get the number that you should have? Make sure when that happens, don't just say, oh, I got it wrong. Go back to all your work over here and double check your steps. A lot of the time, it'll just be a little, what I like to call an easy mistake. Like you just messed up on multiplying something, or your arithmetic was a little off. So double check your work, especially if you don't get the answer that you are looking for, okay?